Hi, I'm Dr. Claire McCallum. I'm Research and Impact Manager at Zinc VC and a member of the management team at the Digital Good Network. In this short video, I'll tell you a little bit about Zinc and some of the challenges that we and our startups face in evaluating impact of technologies and some of the approaches that we take to tackling this. And at the end, also invite you to tell us at the Digital Good Network your thoughts on whether and how we should be evaluating the digital good. So at Zinc, we build ventures that create innovative solutions to the most pressing and complex challenges that are facing the health of people and the planet today. We and everyone else need technology-based solutions that have maximum positive impacts at scale and that do so in a measurable way. So at Zinc, we support founders from the very beginning of their journey, that is, from inception of the business, to give them the best chance of success. So, as well as financial capital and surrounding founders with their huge ecosystem of experts, we also support the research and product development and ensure that these are evidence and theory based. And as part of this, we help these very early stage companies to empirically measure their impact and evaluate their effectiveness. We believe that measuring and evaluating impact this early is a priority and is something that founders should focus on amongst the million other things they have to do to build out their company and product. And that's because measuring impact early allows companies to learn and keep optimizing and developing their product to actually improve impact. So it's a good time. Generating this evidence also helps stakeholders, whether that's future investors, healthcare commissioners, or decision makers, basically all to build conviction that the product is doing the good or is capable of doing the good that it's been designed to, and that it's on the right path to large scale impact. So it's important to evaluate early during product development rather than as an afterthought. But it is not easy to do this at such an early stage. So I'm going to share two challenges around what to evaluate and how to evaluate and our approaches to tackling these. So the first question or challenge that we face is on what to evaluate, both in the sense of what outcomes we should assess, but also what is the thing that we're actually evaluating. Is that the full product or intervention or individual components or features? Because early stage, it's usually MVPs or minimum viable products that we're working with, and there's not much holding them all together, and they're certainly not polished. So there might not even be a tangible product there that's fully ready to be evaluated. The products or interventions that we're working with are unlikely to be hitting the mark first time in achieving the big claims that we want them to around drastically improving quality of life or well-being or making things more sustainable or equitable. So these impressive long-term claims are going to be a challenge for prototypes and MVPs to meet, because these are complex challenges that we're trying to face and tackle. So we're unlikely to get it first time. So we need to do that optimizing. And then there's the question of whether we should be at this stage evaluating the product against these long-term impressive outcomes. So our approach is to encourage founders to assess solution fundamentals, if you like, or components or parts of a product that deliver key chunks of value or particular short-term outcomes. So a key tool that we use, and a lot of folk use, is the theory of change, which is essentially a theory of how their product is expected to work and achieve these longer term outcomes. So how does it work? And it allows them to break down what they need to evaluate. So we encourage folk to start at the long term outcome, they get that North Star metric, and think about what needs to happen in order for that to occur and to work their way back. So this happens during product development to guide what their product or intervention should contain, but it also allows us to map out for each fundamental, we call them solution fundamentals or components, for each one, what change that we would expect them to bring about, what should it be achieving in order to reach that long-term outcome. So, for example, rather than testing whether a product improves well-being, um, there are theoretically there are some constructs that are needed in order to improve well-being around competency. People need some form of autonomy and a sense of relatedness. So, can ventures or founders um, actually evaluate whether components of their product that target these things are doing their job? Um, Similarly, on carbon emissions, whether you're reducing those, saving them, rather than assessing right at the start of a product, right at the start of that journey, whether it's being successful in doing so and in reducing emissions, is it actually instead at the moment, can we show that it's at least changing, the behaviors that need to be changed or the perceptions that need to be changed en route to those emissions being saved? So essentially, the theory of change is sort of identifying a causal pathway, and the ventures or founders can choose bits to evaluate, or these might be prioritized based on risks or what's the most uncertain link in that chain. But essentially gives us a way of evidencing that individual parts of a product are achieving what they should be or are not, and therefore need changed. But it can build a conviction that you're on track to hitting those longer term outcomes, which you will go on to collect in time. When also thinking about what to evaluate, we need to consider specific measures and metrics. So there are established and validated surveys for different outcomes. There's, in the investment world, there's Global Impact Investing Network, which have a huge catalogue, the IRIS catalogue of metrics. There's SDGs. There are a lot of these frameworks out there of things that we should be measuring. And we think these are useful. We do also encourage folk to be mindful of these because I guess on the one hand, definitely people might be expecting particular measures that have been validated, or there's consensus as to that's what the product should be striving for. And these standardized metrics, if you like, they do allow, I guess, decision makers or investors to start comparing products in their impact. But with being standardized, they're not necessarily completely suitable for every product. There's several to navigate, and they might be too high level to see change so early on. So as well as these lists of hundreds of indicators, we're also quite interested in broader principles that we can bake in for consideration and evaluation during development. And the Digital Good Index is particularly interesting for us at Zinc in this respect. So we're keeping an eye and involved in developing that Digital Good Index. And I encourage you to check out the Digital Good Network website to learn more about that. So the second key challenge is how to evaluate, and how to evaluate technologies, because these are ever changing. Technologies do keep changing and evolving, updating, and they should, to respond to feedback, whether it's improving accuracy, detection. It's just that trials aren't all types of trials aren't built to cope with this. So there are certain trials that rather would prefer that I guess products are stable and stay the same throughout the trial. They're kind of frozen in time so that they can be evaluated, which is good, but also means that in terms of keeping the product the same or the version the same throughout allows us to know whether that version was indeed effective. But freezing that product can also hamper innovation and be a bit unrealistic for folk that are trying to get their product out there and improve it, and it can hamper innovation in that way. So there are large trials, randomized control trials, for example, huge clinical trials that are the gold standard but aren't necessarily a good fit for these early stage products. Randomized control trials in particular as well are very expensive for founders to commit to, especially at the very early stage when they don't have lots of resources yet. And because it's expensive, time consuming, we wouldn't necessarily encourage ventures to do this too early, particularly when the product hasn't been fully optimized yet. So, if you go to do a trial straight away, there's a good chance that it won't be, the results won't be in your favor, if you like, in terms of showing that your product is effective. So we encourage the use of other types of trial or more agile trials that allow evidence-based optimization. So you are still doing experimentation, but you're doing it in a way that means that they're more lightweight and allows you to optimize and improve impact, such that when you arrive at the time to do a randomized control trial, you've got a good chance of the product being effective. And it's, you've modified it and improved it enough that it's okay to stay the same or stable throughout a trial. There are different types of these agile trials. Personal favorite is N of 1, which can be aggregated to essentially allow us to understand whether an intervention or product works for a particular person or particular types of people who doesn't it work for. Another example is the multi-phase optimization strategy, which is not quite as agile, but does allow you to understand which components of a product should be kept, if you like. It allows you to understand their individual effectiveness, and if there's something in the product that's not doing what it should, then that's a key candidate for removal, particularly if that product or that component is taking up a lot of resources to maintain. So there might be components that should be removed from the product. So there's these different types of trials, and we'd encourage ventures to at least explore these before jumping straight to a randomized control trial. And as I say, it really allows you to do that kind of, evaluation without going for the heavier duty trials later on. What I would also say is that we encourage, the use of passive data streams with care, making sure that everyone knows what's being collected and how. But there are ways now that we can collect data using these technologies that are delivering the innovations or the solutions. They can also be good for collecting the right type of data that we need in a trial. So whether that's wearables, there's, might be short sort of in the moment surveys that a smartphone can deliver in the right context, for example. There are definitely challenges with these types of data collection measures, primarily around their validation, making sure that they are trustworthy and good validity and reliability, and that there's, scientific consensus being reached that they are useful measures to adopt. And also, broadly, a sort of challenge, an opportunity here is ensuring that there's, that the user experience has been thought out when collecting data using technology. So there's a lot of work to do and lots of challenges remaining in evaluating the impact of digital technologies. I've discussed some of these that we face and ways of measuring impact from the beginning, and shared some of our approaches at how we do it at Zinc. But I'm really interested in how you or anyone that approaches it at this very early stage in particular. Either as a startup, you might be academic focused on new methodologies, you might be an advisor. So I'd love to hear from you if you want to email me at claire@zinc.vc. And at the Digital Good Network, we are more broadly interested in how you think that we should be approaching the evaluation of the digital good. So how should we, whether we should and how we should evaluate the digital good. And this year, our Digital Good Research Fund, that's actually already launched, and it invites your proposals on exactly this topic. So please do check it out on our website. Thank you very much.